8.
Good
So you're
evening,
8,
ladies.
and there was a 7
Okay.
and a 3.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Scott Deacon. I'm the commander at the American Legion Post 206, Stallings Williams Post, here in Chesapeake Beach. Move it out. Is that the right thing to do? Everybody?
Yeah.
That way. Okay. Is that better? I hope so.
Get this out of your way.
Tonight's the. Is that all right? All right. Well, let's try out. Let's work that way. I keep getting different directions. Give them a second. I'll talk while he's figuring that out. That's Kevin. This is the crew from Calvert County Communications and Public Relations. And I think I don't have it exactly right, but they were kind enough to come tonight and put this on a YouTube channel. You don't have to type in your computer or your phone webpage, Calvert County Government YouTube, will bring up the page. And if you're doing that right now, just hit a button that's live, and it'll be recorded there if you want to watch it later on for friends that want to see it. So we appreciate everything they've done. But I also want to thank the candidates. I tell you what, being a candidate is a tough thing. It's a long slog. You put yourself out there, you put your family out there. These guys have just hung in there. It's a very collegial group. They respect each other, and I appreciate that. So I want to thank them first and foremost. And I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your very busy schedules and coming here to participate and listen to the candidates. So, gosh, there we have it. The only thing I'll remind people is the candidates will be respectful for each other. Please do the same, and I don't expect any less. Time limits will be strictly adhered to. My lovely wife there has got the big bell in the signs, so it's kind of important, so we won't be here all night. And they'll be given a signal at 1 minute, and then at 30 seconds, and then when the time's up to hit the bell. Some of the questions shouldn't take that long. But in any case, as last time, it was our tradition here at all meetings that we say the pledge of allegiance. So you all have a good time. Raise the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And now for our moderator for this evening, Mr. Dave McGowan. His bio's in the back. Remember the phenomenal guy, great skill, I'm working on it. And a long-term resident of the
Been
county.
a long day.
Please welcome Steve.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As Deke said, a fundamental part of democracy is informed electorate. Thank you for doing your part tonight in that regard. Candidates, gentlemen, unlike last time, I won't repeat the question for each one of you. I'll repeat it once. And if anyone would like a repeat, by all means jump in and we'll do that. Some of the questions have subparts. And so to start, what I'll do is read the preamble to the question, and then part A, put that to all the candidates, then part B, and we'll proceed like that unless you guys think there's a better way to do it, and we'll call an audible on it. And so, you didn't say this part this time, but I think you had in prior discussions, that each of the candidates gets a couple of minutes to introduce themselves, tell the voters why they should choose you as sheriff of Calvert County, and then each of the questions will be in successive rounds of 2 minutes. So, any questions, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Okay. Then, in the order that Scott Deacon and you decided, we'll lead off with the introductions.
Steve, they get 3 minutes or 2 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right. 3 minutes. Speaking of audibles, 3 minutes. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out to this forum. My name is Mike Wilson, and I'm one of the Republican candidates running for the office of sheriff down here. And I think that all of us have very unique perspective of what we want and what the citizens are looking for. But I am retired from the Maryland State Police. I served 23 years with the Maryland State Police. Before that, I was a veteran in the United States military. I was in the Air Force. I served 4 years in the Air Force as a military police officer. After the state police retirement, I had the opportunity to become chief of the Maryland Capitol Police, which is what I'm currently doing now. I've been chief of that department for the last 12 years, and we have jurisdiction all over the state of Maryland. We are mostly in Annapolis, and Baltimore, and we have multi-service centers throughout the state of Maryland. And basically what we do is we enforce criminal and traffic laws in and around state facilities throughout the state of Maryland. There's 209 employees, police officers and security officers with the Maryland Capitol Police, and we have I have a $23.5 million budget that I'm in charge of and operate. Went to Johns Hopkins University for 3 years. While I was the chief of the department, I got my business degree from Hopkins, and then I got a master's degree in organizational leadership. So that's who I am. That's what I bring to the table. I'm the only candidate up here that's actually been a police chief in a department and have effectively made changes in an organization. So I've done it. I've made several changes with the Capitol Police in my 12-year tenure up there. And I will do the same thing down here in Calvert County if elected as sheriff. Being the chief of the department has given me the opportunity to gain wisdom, knowledge, the experience that you need dealing with people and dealing with agencies and dealing with issues that arise throughout a department. That's who I am. The reason I'm running down here is because Calvert County is my home. I've been down here for 33 years. Even though I'm not affiliated and have never been in the Calvert County Sheriff's Office, I've lived here for 33 years, and I consider Calvert County my home. I'm running for the office of sheriff because I want to bring all the skills, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the experience that I've had throughout the state police, the military, and being a chief of police down here to Calvert County, the Sheriff's Department, and serve you and serve my community as the sheriff down here. I have the ability, and I will make effective changes in the department. I truly believe through dealing and talking with the citizens out here for the last year that the Calvert's looking for a change. So that's my bell. I'll sit down. Thank you again. Thank you.
You got your bell ring.
You got gone.
All right, good evening. How you doing? First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for having us here. I am Vaughn J. Johnson. I am Jay. That's what everybody calls me. Vaughn is my government name. Jay is what everybody knows me as. I'm born and raised from Calvert County. I grew up here. This is where I'm from. This is the only place that I applied to be a police officer for. Calvert County, being a Calvert County deputy was my dream job. It was all I ever wanted to do. I've been doing this now for 23 years, and it doesn't feel like work for me because I enjoy this job so much. Serving this county, serving the citizens in this county, being out and about, doing what I do every day. It's been a pleasure for me to do for the last 23 years. For the last almost 14 years, I've been in the schools, I've worked as an SRO in the schools, which has expanded my being in the communities, being around everybody every day. That's pretty much being in the community is what I've done for the last 14 years. At the school for 8 hours and then out in the community for the next 3 or 4 hours, coaching, mentoring, doing everything like that. That's what I've been doing for the last 14 years now. I'm running for sheriff because I want to bring this county together. I grew up here. I've watched this county change throughout the years of me growing up. Some pretty, some hard, some difficult, but I've watched this county grow and change. I just want to bring this county together. I think myself and Tim and myself have shown that by coming together. A Democrat and a Republican. I'll say that again. A Democrat and a Republican coming together to put aside our differences to do what we ultimately want to do. Keep the citizens of Calvert County safe. That was the first thing I wanted to do when I decided to run, was not have another Democrat as my second, not be divisive like that. I wanted to bring this county together, so I chose a Republican as my second in command. What better way to say that I want to bring the county together and not divide it, but then to bring bipartisans in the sheriff's office and show that two separate parties can come together and do the most ultimate thing, keep my citizens of Calvert County safe. Again, I will say this was my dream job, being a deputy. This is all I ever wanted to do. It's all I imagined myself doing. But along the way, somewhere along the way, I had a calling. And that calling was to become the sheriff of Calvert County. And now I would be honored to do that. That is pretty much all I think about now, is being the sheriff of this county and bringing my passion, my energy, and my love for serving this county to the citizens of Calvert County. And that's why I decided to run. I live here. I love this county. I went away for a couple years out of high school, and I came back here. My whole family's here. I've raised all my kids, all three of my kids here, and I love being here. And this is where I plan on being until I leave this earth. I love this county. I don't see myself leaving, and this is what I call home. So I want to bring this county together and move us forward in this new police world that I know a lot of changes are coming with, and I feel I'm the best one to move us forward. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave McGowan, and I am currently the Assistant Sheriff here in Calvert County. I started my career serving the public in 1987 at the Prince George's County Detention Center. In 1990, I began my law enforcement service. I moved to Calvert County in 1987 and was immediately welcomed. My wife, Michelle, and my son, Wyatt, are both natives. This, for me, isn't, the question was posed as, why should you vote for Dave McGowan or for any candidate for sheriff? I don't believe that you should vote for anybody. I believe that you should do what you're doing here tonight, research every candidate, and make the best decision. And hopefully, after tonight and after some research, I will be that choice for you. My campaign is about 5 key things. Absolutely deputy sheriffs in our schools, all of our schools. Safety on our roadways. Community partnerships that are built on trust and accountability. The advancement of what I call the war on drugs, and it is a war on drugs. And last but not least, the overall wellness and mental health for my staff. And I could go into the nuances of all of those, but it's really quite simple. With respect to drugs, ladies and gentlemen, I never, ever want someone else to find someone they loved deceased from an overdose. And I know that's a lofty goal. I know that's a lofty goal. And I never, ever want to have to go to someone's home again and tell a set of parents that their child or loved one was killed in an auto accident. Again, lofty. But we can do it together as a community, and it will take the entire community to bring that together. And that's where I believe that my experience comes into play. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 30 years. And over the last decade, I've really been able to develop some relationships with other county leaders, with other business owners, and stakeholders that really have a say-so in the way things go in this county. And I've met a lot of new faces since that time that now have become friends and respected colleagues. And again, for me, it's about doing this together. This is not, I'm not in this to win something. I'm not in this to win something. This isn't, for me, it's not a dream for me. It's not a retirement job for me. And I will say that being the sheriff is definitely not a retirement job. Sheriff Evans retired from the Maryland State Police, and he was quite an effective sheriff for 20 years. So for me, this is about continuing my service to serve you and doing all I can to protect your family and your county as your sheriff. I thank you all very much.
I'm Craig Contra. I served the citizens of Calvert County for 33 years as a deputy and a supervisor. I've proved my integrity and leadership during the time of my service. I retired in 2020, but in my heart, I'm not done. I can't go in good conscience, sit back and watch continued mishandling internal cases that involve Sheriff's Office personnel. To that point, there's no greater example than what happened to Leah Clark 3 years ago. Let me show you. Let me tell you her story. On the day of Leah's death, she received a phone call from her son's school telling them that her son did an excellent job in school and they were very proud of him. Her 9-year-old son loved slushies. So while Leah's boyfriend, Tebow, which is in the audience tonight, waited at the bus stop, Leah walked to a nearby store to buy her son a slushie. It was on Deers Beach Road where she was struck and killed by an off-duty deputy. The deputy who struck and killed was charged with manslaughter by motor vehicle, speeding, driving intoxicated, and several other charges. However, because of the negligent mishandling of this case, the deputy received a slap on the wrist and was convicted of speeding and reckless driving. He walked away with a measly $600 fine for 2 of the lesser charges he was convicted of. Let me ask you, how about if it was your daughter? Would you be happy with the sheriff's office? I'd imagine everybody in this room would say no. It's because of this and other questionable practices that I am running for your sheriff. I have felt so strongly about mismanaging that I believe a change is absolutely necessary. And I'm the candidate who will bring about the ethics-driven leadership to the sheriff's office to move forward. As your sheriff, I will work hard to ensure this type of mismanagement and incompetence will not happen under my watch. If a sworn or civilian employee of the sheriff's office commits a criminal offense, he will be charged as anybody else. I'm running for this office to protect your rights and the rights of the women and men who put their uniforms on every day and wear it with pride, serving it with commitment. Please go to my website, craigcontraforsheriff.com. My website details my vision and the direction for law enforcement in Calvert. Be sure to vote and tell your friends and neighbors to get out and vote for me. The only way I can change the sheriff's office is with your support. If you desire positive change, I'm your man. I'm Craig Contra. I appreciate your vote on July 19th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ricky Cox. I'm running for candidate sheriff for the Republican Party. I would like to thank the American Legion tonight for hosting this event. This is our second one here. This is my home here. I'm a life member here, and I remember coming as a kid. My grandfather, a U.S. Army veteran, bringing me here numerous times for events. But all the veterans out there, I want to say thank you for serving our country. First, I would like to speak about my professional career. I bring experience, knowledge, and leadership to the table to be your next sheriff. The people of this county are really looking for new direction and change, and I've heard and I've seen it out there for the last 15 months campaigning. I can be that change knowing the current needs of not only the sheriff's office, but the current needs of our community. And I can hit the ground running day one as I take over for sheriff. I grew up in Huntingtown on a tobacco farm. I say this because this is where I learned hard work and dedication, and which I still use today. I graduated from Calvert High School's first criminal justice program. Once I graduated, I went to Parris Island, and I graduated Marine Corps boot camp, and I started my military career. During my military career, I served 2 combat tours. I learned a lot about leadership. I learned about developing leadership under fire. This is where I learned about the concept of troop welfare, a key piece of which I feel the Calvert County Sheriff is missing at this point, and I will put the men and women of the Sheriff's Office first before myself. I was hired in 2004 by the Sheriff's Office, and I've excelled to the current rank of captain. I served in every bureau of that agency, and to include patrol, SOT, special operations, criminal investigations, and civil process. And I have working knowledge of every job in that building, sworn and civilian. I have an experience of making stressful situations and making calls on scenes, being a SWAT commander, handling budgets, and I've worked with many county government officials over my years. During my career, I received numerous awards to include Medals for Valor, while raising a family, running patrol shift, and also coaching 2 ball teams, which I love to do. I received my degree and used my GI Bill because I think it's very important for the next sheriff to have some kind of educational background. I bring the same dedication to you as sheriff every day as I have throughout my whole career. For our community, my key points: ensuring school safety. We can do things now to make our schools safer, secure our students and our staff. Enhancing drug education and enforcement. We lost 20 people last year, and now we're up to 8, and the number keeps climbing. Major crime is down. Let's put our resources towards hammering this war on drugs and get to work. Making mental health and domestic violence a priority. Enhancing fiscal responsibility and putting money in training, and also putting in protecting our schools. And protecting your constitutional and Second Amendment rights is very important. My vision, having ideas that are bold and constructed to meet the challenges of our time, but big enough to unite the people of this county. This is what my leadership can do. This is what this position as sheriff is for. And this is why I'm asking for your vote July 19th, 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We'll now proceed into the question rounds. There are 6 rounds of questions. I'll announce the topic. Some of the questions, as I believe I mentioned earlier, have some sub-questions to them. I'll indicate that. We'll go through those in sequence unless you guys, gentlemen, give us feedback to the topic.
Excuse me, we cannot hear you in the audience.
Okay. I'll do better. How's that? Can you hear it now? Okay. All right. Well, we'll do it like this. So, first topic's pay and training. Okay, Calvert County Sheriff's Office personnel are among the lowest paid in the state. Lower pay affects how we compete for the best people. Larger sheriff's offices have the luxury of having specialized community outreach deputies as well as other specialists. Our smaller number requires our deputies to perform a much larger scope of duties, which correspondingly reduces their training opportunities and their depth of experience across the breadth of their duties. So, first question. What is your view on increasing the salary of deputies, and describe your plan on how to obtain and sustain those funds, including providing for yearly cost of living increases? Mr. Wilson first.
So pay parity is a big issue in Calvert County. There's no doubt about it. The deputies in this county are paid subsequently less money than the surrounding counties and jurisdictions. And that causes a lot of problems. That causes a lot of recruitment problems. It causes a lot of retention problems. How do you recruit the most qualified, experienced police officers at the lowest pay in the Tri-County area? And the simple answer to that question is you don't. You take you take others, because other officers are going to go where they're compensated for the work that they do. How do you fix that? You work with the commissioners. You have to have the ability to communicate effectively and plead your case for the sheriff's department. You have to go to the commissioners and talk about what are the needs of the department. How do we make the Calvert County Sheriff's Department a better agency, a better department, a better sheriff's office? And pay is a big part of that. You're not going to get highly qualified officers down here when you're paying them 20% less than everybody else in the county. So how I would fix that is I would go to the commissioners and bargain for pay. I mean, all of us sitting up here have already, we wrote letters to the FOP a couple months ago to address the pay parity issue, and out of the letters that were written, and probably the fact that it's an election season, the commissioners actually gave employees of Calvert County pay raises, and the deputies will get a raise July 1st. But so will everybody else in the state. So will Prince George's County, so will Charles County, so will St. Mary's County, and here you are right back in the same situation that you were in before the pay raises took effect. So you have to go after the money. I mean, that's the only way. And Calvert loses a fair amount of deputies as well because they go to other agencies because they're compensated more for what they do. So, thank you.
So pay is extremely important. It is. That's the best way to keep the best candidates in the county with us. Right now, I can only speak for myself. Come July, the pay increase that I get is substantial. It does catch me up with some of the surrounding corporals at the same years that I have. So I give kudos to the FOP, Dave, that worked on it, getting our pay up to where it is right now. They have a good system going, and it seems to have the commissioners on board to keep our pay parity and keep our pay going forward. We still want it to get a little bit more, but as of right now, the pay increase that I get in July personally it's a big jump. It does catch me up close to the surrounding counties. It needs to be a little bit more, but it is extremely close, and it is a lot better. It does make us more competitive with our surrounding counties. So as long as we continue that path with the commissioners and we continue to fight that battle with the commissioners, because we seem to have them on our side right now and agreeing that we need to go forward and increase our pay and keep our pay parity with everyone else. And if we can continue down that path, I don't see a problem with the pay parity. It took a long time to get here. I agree with Mr. Wilson. It did come at a really convenient time, but with that said, we did get it, and it does seem to be moving forward, and the commissioners seem to be ready to come to the table with us whenever we ask for pay and keeping us on board with close to everybody else around us now. So as long as we can keep going forward with what we already have established, because it seems to be working now, we'll keep the deputies and keep our pay parity close to everyone else.
So, a little over a year ago, myself, the FOP president, other members of FOP, and some other staff began to work on a market adjustment for pay. And a market adjustment looks at the law enforcement services in Southern Maryland to see where we stack up, and we were way below. And we knew we were below. We didn't know how far below we were until we got into the study. But that was a year plus ago. Since that time, we have worked diligently. Tireless hours, tireless negotiations. You see, the commissioners fund the sheriff. That's their only relationship with the sheriff, is that they have to fund the sheriff and what the law says in order to accomplish his mission. So it's really up to them at the end of the day how they spend taxpayer dollars. But we stayed perseverant, and yes, as Jay said, come July 1, the commissioners adopted a budget, will go into effect, and it does include a very handsome market adjustment for sheriff's office employees to include corrections, sworn and corrections deputies. Is it late in the game? Yes, it is. It is late in the game, and I'm quite certain that maybe some political pressure made them make that decision. However, we do have an informal agreement with them that moving forward, we will stay within 5% of that market, either up or down. That's this board. Now, folks, you know, the board can change again in 4 years, and that may change, but we're going to hold out hope that it doesn't. So we will stay within a 5% range of the Southern Maryland market for at least the next 4 years. And hopefully at that point in time, if there's a new board that comes in, they'll see that that's the right thing to do, and they'll continue to do that. As far as training goes, I've been an advocate for training my entire career. When I became the assistant sheriff, there was no training budget. I was able to establish one with $85,000. Today, it's almost $190,000. And I spend every penny of it every year. I deplete it every year. I don't deny training requests. The outcome when we deplete the budget is I find other accounts to take the training money from. Thank you.
Mr. Condra.
I agree with most of the other guys. The pay has to be the same as Charles St. Mary's in Calvert. If not, we lose people. And we have lost people because they train with us, stay with us, and as soon as we get them trained, they're going somewhere else. So we definitely got to keep the wages up. Now, how do we do that? Well, sometimes you have to bite the bullet. Instead of hiring 5 more people, you go ahead and say, hey, we won't hire the people, but can you give us our raise? You have to work back and forth with the commissioners. You can't always demand stuff. You're not going to get it. And if you have a good working relationship with the commissioners, that also helps. Training, we always should have training, especially training in the schools for shooters. We need to do that in the summer. We need to have money out there for it, because you never know. You know, it happens in Texas, it happens, you know, somewhere else, and all of a sudden we get all hyped up. We got to do this, this, and that. But when it's not there, we don't worry about it. We got to start worrying about it. We got to build more money into our training budget. Thank you.
Pay and training, a very important issue, and this has been a very hot topic for a while now at the Sheriff's Office. And staying competitive is huge. When you have MSP in our county. We have Charles and St. Mary's, which we go to the academy with, making us 25% more than us, and they're doing the same jobs and responding to the same calls. I've conducted the PT test for the new hires at the sheriff's office for many years now, and I'm used to seeing 150 people out there. Now I think the last trial we had was 11. So getting our pay up, I want to touch on the FOP Lodge 109 for the men and women and getting that deal done. I mean, we had to go through drastic measures. We raised the line campaign. We had to do that to fight for our pay raises. And I think it's the sheriff and assistant sheriff's job for responsible for working with the commissioners for budget issues to include pay and to include training. Under the watch, we fell 25 to 20% behind on most cases to our counterparts that are making than us. And in addition to that, too, I received a pay step that I received in 2011. So I just got my step that I received and I earned 10 years ago. I mean, that's unacceptable. And why we're falling behind on pay, the sheriff got a pay raise, and also the assistant sheriff lobbied to protect his job at the highest rank on the pay scale. And this happened while we were falling behind 25%. I want to talk about on-call and tech pay. We're still behind on that. And these guys have specialized skills that they need to be paid for, and we still haven't. It's been brought up, so he's still getting denied. So we have to good working relationship with the commissioners to get those pay issues straight, along with our training. Just to touch on training, I think training is the cornerstone of any successful organization. And I think that we have a lot of instructors to fix this quick issue. We can have a training unit within our sheriff's office that we can train every day rather than just training at in-service. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, continuing on pay and training, second question. Which skills are most important to your sheriff's office? If there are additional skills important to the citizens of the county, how would you develop them across the staff? How would you fund the additional training?
What is it?
Mr. Wilson.
Repeat the question again, please.
Okay. Which skills are most important to the sheriff's office? If there are additional skills important to the citizens of the county, to the sheriff's office, how would you develop them across the staff? How would you fund the additional training?
The skills of the deputies in the county and police officers have to do with how they serve and how they protect and how they do their jobs. Our training is mandated by the Maryland Police Training Commission. So every year, police officers, not just in the sheriff's department, but throughout in the state of Maryland, have to go through a series of training through the Maryland Police Training Commission, and that training is mandated that you have to give to these police officers. Additional training in the department, you go after additional training through grants. There's federal grants that you can go to. There's the state of Maryland has a GOCAP part of his agency up there that you can request monies for training and for other things. You can certainly make your statement with the county commissioners to add additional funding or money into training. Look, the first thing that gets cut out of a budget of a police department is training. That's the first thing that gets cut. With the defunding the police and everything else that's happening, they take that money. But for all this to happen, you have to have the ability to communicate. You have to have the ability to go after and talk to these commissioners and talk to these people and plead your case. If you don't have the ability to talk and communicate with these guys, you're not getting anything done. You're not getting anything done like that. So that would be my answer to that. There's plenty of ways that you can go get money for training and implement it into your department. And I would think that the sheriff also has the ability. He puts people over to Southern Police Training Commission, and they go through and develop curriculums and different training criteria every year because it changes every year. Depending on what's going on in society. The training changes. And these guys get it. These guys get the mandated training coming down the pike. And when this policing bill goes through, the police reform bill, it's even going to be more mandated training that's going to come down the pike. So it's going to have to be funded. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, so we do have our in-service that we are required to take. So we'll work on our in-service to make sure that the in-service training stays new, stays fresh, that we follow all the in-service things that we need to follow, but we also add to that training. I know I've been here almost 23 years, and the in-service has gotten better and better every year. We've added certain classes to it and some additional training to it. De-escalation and communication is the biggest thing for police officers going forward. Being able to communicate to the public, being able to communicate to each other, being able to communicate across the board is the biggest issue we have right now. The public doesn't always feel like they are heard when they talk to the police officers. So communication and being able to articulate yourself to the public in a non-aggressive manner would be some of the biggest things I want to get to our deputies, that training. Like I said before, I'm an SRO. So being an SRO, I'm required to take additional training every summer. Outside of my in-service for the Sheriff's Office, I'm required through the state of Maryland now to take an additional training for my SRO program. And we have started this new emotional intelligence training. This training is to help you manage your own emotions in a positive way, so you learn how to manage your own stress. And in managing your own stress, it helps you to effectively communicate with the public. It also helps you to diffuse conflict, so it teaches you a little bit more de-escalation. But the biggest part of this training is to teach you how to handle your emotions, to be able to handle the stress of the job and not come to work and take your emotions out on the public, so that you can still communicate with the public in a very positive way. So I feel going forward that communications between the community and police just needs to become stronger. We need to learn how to communicate in a non-aggressive way and to be able to get our point across without having to be so aggressive, and just communicate across to them what we need them to get and what we need them to do. And I believe de-escalation training and this new emotional intelligence training that I've just taken would be good things to do. Thank you.
Well, Jay hit the nail on the head on a couple of those things for sure. De-escalation and interpersonal communications, emotional wellness are all critical topics for our law enforcement officers out there today, especially with the looming legislation coming into effect July 1st. There's a lot of uncertainty out there for our officers. The Training Commission has yet to actually define necessary and proportionate force used to effect an arrest. They haven't defined it. And basically their statement was, we'll let the courts decide it. So what that means is that some deputy sheriff is going to use force, and it's going to be questionable, and that person is going to end up in the court system trying to define the definition of necessary and proportionate. So, and yes, the Training Commission does mandate in-service training, but that's the minimum training. We go far and above that. And we had to actually cut 3% out of our budget last year. The training line did not get touched. We did not touch the training line when we did that. We worked it out where we didn't have to. So, it's the training that the deputies require and the deputies in the detention center require is all about people now. It's all about how you deal with people, how you de-escalate, and really that's, we're fortunate here. Our troops have been very responsive to that, and we don't have a lot of incidents. We handle a lot of calls for people with mental illness, we really do. And I got to tell you, hands down, our deputies, both in the detention center and out on the road, do a fantastic job, and it's because of that additional training that we provide. Thank you.
If elected your next sheriff, I will always evaluate our in-house training and our training budget to ensure that we have adequate funding for all necessary training. And also, we have a bunch of instructors at the sheriff's office where they could teach any of us anything. They could do on their half hour before they go on duty. They could teach them there. We could save money that way. On the other half, the people. We need to get back to community policing. We need to get the people's trust. We need to get their support, because if we as the sheriff's office need something, we can get the people to help us put stress, pressure on the commissioners to get what we need. Training is always good. There's all kind of training that we should be getting, which we don't. And I feel that if we have the budget, have the people, and ask the commissioners. I know we keep asking, you get what you can get. Just like our raise. They got a nice raise. It took a little bit of time, but you also got to remember within the budget, there's only close to 93,000 people in the county. And, if you go too much farther, they're going to raise your taxes, and that's what you don't want. So hopefully we can keep it in that budget. Thank you.
Training and funding has been a big issue across the board for any law enforcement agency. And like I just said before, I think training is the cornerstone of any successful police agency, and we need to do it. And I like to use the analogy of I coach 7U football, Dunkirk Warriors, and we practice the plays all week, and then we expect them to come out there on Saturday morning to execute. And just like an NFL team, they run plays all day and they execute them on Sunday. And our deputies out on the street, they'll go to domestic call after domestic call, they'll go to an overdose, and then they go home after working a night shift, they'll take the uniform off, and then they'll put it back on again with no really training until that next in-service. And just like I said, my plan is to have a training unit because I've been an instructor since the United States Marine Corps, was a firearms instructor and a martial arts instructor as well, and an instructor here at the Sheriff's Office since 2005. And we do have some awesome instructors here that are well-trained, and if we develop this training unit, it's not going to cost us any money. And we can have in-house training, and my plan is to change the patrol schedules so we have overlapping shifts so we can train while we're working, so we can get those trainings in between calls or in between your night shift and day shift so our officers are well-trained. Driving, shooting, officer rescue, active shooter, all these things. Schools are now out, so we should be visiting our schools, and we should be getting the layout of our schools, getting our cameras and working on those things. In case something does happen, we're well prepared for that and are well trained. Kind of want to stay away from grants and research those because there's kind of strings attached when you look at grants, but with these awesome instructors that we currently have at the office, what I plan for funding is have in-house training, which we can invite other agencies down, train, and we get paid for that, which we can add additional monies to our funding for our training budget for our entire office. And that's my plan, and that's what I want to move the Sheriff's Office is more training and have that training unit available for everybody. Thank you.
Gentlemen, continuing on pay and training, last question. What's your thinking about deputies moonlighting in uniform? Starting Mr. Wilson again.
Working part-time, that's what they're doing. They're working secondary employment because they don't make enough money with the Sheriff's Department to be able to, feed their families and take care of each other. So they're not working because they want to work secondary. Nobody wants to work 8, 10, 12 hours and then go down to Nick's and stand on your feet and work another 6 or 8 hours for $30 or $40 an hour. I don't want to do that. But at this point, they don't have an option to do that. They work at these jobs because most of them have to. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with deputies working secondary employment. There's got to be a process. There's got to be, there's forms that you fill out to request permission to work these secondary jobs. There's restrictions on the jobs that you can work. You just can't work anywhere. So there's policies that establish where a deputy or where an officer can work. Because don't forget about when they're out there with a marked car or an unmarked car, sheriff's car, and most I think the county down here lets them use their vehicles to work secondary part-time jobs, and they also allow them to wear uniforms and carry the departmental gun and everything. So you're also out there representing the Sheriff's Department and the citizens when you're out here working secondary employment. So it's very important that the Sheriff's Office mandates what you can work and where you can work. But I've been a police officer for 36 years, and I would say my wife would testify to this, that probably 20 of those years worked a whole lot of part-time jobs. So it's for these guys, it's a necessity. Thank you.
Like Mr. Wilson, I agree. I don't disagree with part-time as long as you put in the right paperwork to do it. Some part-time is a nice thing for the community. They get to be out in the community. It's another armed uniform officer out in the community. The part-time is normally a great pay rate, so it's a little bit of extra money. I don't want them to have to work part-time to make a living. I want our pay to be where it needs to be, and the part-time is just because they want to go make extra money, and it's a nice way to go and make extra money. When I first started here, I didn't, to be honest with you, didn't even really care about how much I made, because this is all I wanted to do. I'm not even sure I understood that I wasn't making as much as I should have 23 years ago. And for those that are as old as I am, I worked part-time at Cheney's when they had karaoke there on Friday nights. And I didn't know any better. It was part-time, it was a way to be out, and I enjoyed it. I actually ended up enjoying being there, working the part-time. Up until recently, I was working ride and reel, and I enjoyed working ride and reel. It was a way of being out, talking to the community, and still making a little extra money. So I agree with the part-time as long as they put in the right paperwork, but I just don't want the part-time to be something that they have to do to make ends meet. I want our pay to be where they can live off of our pay nice and they can take care of their families off of our pay. The part-time is just a way to make some extra money. You want to make money for vacation, or you want to add on to your house, or whatever, college pay, your kids' college off. I want part-time to be exactly what it is, part-time, just the extra funds, extra money, but not a means to survive. But I do agree with part-time. Like I said, 23 years I've probably worked part-time most of my career up until the last probably eight to 9 years, only because working as an SRO, I have so much overtime with that, working football games and extra school curricular stuff. So, and I coach a ton, so I don't have a lot of time to do part-time now, but I think part-time is good as long as it's not to survive off of.
So I've worked secondary employment or part-time my entire career. In 2005, when I got promoted to lieutenant, I couldn't get overtime anymore. And at that same time, I was putting myself through college for my master's program. And that part-time really helped me pay a lot of bills off, college bills. And today, it still helps with bills. You know, I mean, life is expensive. And if you can work secondary employment, why not? Like Jay said, it does put you back out into the community. I don't have the stats with me tonight, but I am pretty certain that a lot of deputies handle a lot of calls outside of their part-time while they're there at part-time. So policy says that if you're at a part-time assignment and something happens near your area, you are to respond. And when you are out there, you're in your police car, so that's another police car out in the community that people see, like Jay mentioned. You know, and the guy parked at Nick's working security, that's usually a marked car sitting out in front of Nick's in a shopping center, which may give somebody a measure of comfort when they go to that shopping center to shop. So as long as it doesn't interfere with your daily responsibilities as a deputy sheriff, and you're not doing it just you know, to survive, and you feel like you can't get help anywhere else, I have no problem with it. Thank you.
I agree with part-time. When I first started, I had to work 2 jobs because back then we made $20,000, and where are you going to buy a house for $20,000? Where are you going to buy a house today for $53,000 a year? You're not going to do it. You need that supplement income for you and your family. Part-time's good for several reasons. If you're in a rod and reel, Abner's, or any place like that, and something happens, you handle the incident. The guy on the road stays on the road, which is good. Second, your car's there. People see that the police are out there. As long as they obey by the rules. Now, you can work part-time, but there got to be, in between part-time and your work time, you have to have so much downtime. The downtime has to be there because we don't want you coming to work sleeping and falling down and so forth. The only thing I would change right now is everybody wears all kind of different uniforms for part-time. We have to go down to one uniform, make everybody wear the same uniform. Some wear off-duty, some wear on-duty. I think if we break it down and get one uniform, we'd do good. But part-time is definitely great. If you haven't been there, you had to be there one time where you're struggling and you needed that extra money. You went to a store or someplace else to work. That's how the deputies are too. The car is good. Like I say, it's out there. It prevents stuff going on. Thank you.
Moonlighting in uniform. Coming up as a young officer here working in Calvert County, like they said, the pay was very limited. So it kind of forced you to do that. My wife's a school teacher. She's been teaching for 16 years. So if you're looking at money coming in and you have 2 kids that are in daycare, anybody can raise their hands out there and how much daycare costs these days. I just don't know how our young people out there do that, especially if you have 4 or 5 kids. I see some smiles out there, but 3 of my own, but part-time really made ends meet, paying my wife's college bills off and things of that nature as well. But I do respect the part-time, and I'm just as long as that remain professional, and the deputies are working the hours that they're supposed to in regards to not putting too many hours in, so the supervisors are keeping track of that. And I think that's very important. And make sure the part-time follows agency policy, and it's registered, recorded properly, and they're doing the right things at the right times. And I do agree with the uniform. A lot of complaints I've heard on the street that we wear too many uniforms. To make sure we have a standardized part-time uniform would be make it better for the community as far as being visibility out there. And working the Ranch Club in 2004 was my first assignment. 2005, and my nearest backup was Prince Frederick. So just imagine how far, if you're fighting somebody, or if you go to a mental subject, you go with a guy with a knife or a gun, or a domestic call, you're going by yourself, and how long do you have to watch your back or watch yourself for that long to somebody coming from Prince Frederick? But these individuals working part-time out there, they're visible, and a lot of times they were the ones backing me up or helping me on a call. So I think that's very important, because it gives us more officers out there working and being visible and interacting with our community as well. And I do agree with moonlighting and uniform.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, topic number 2. There are 2 questions preceded by a context that I will read for you. So the topic is constitutional sheriff. In the last forum, all candidates identified themselves as a, quote, constitutional sheriff, end quote. The office of the sheriff, though, is not addressed nor provided for in the Constitution of the United States, adopted in 1789 and amended 27 times. However, the Maryland Constitution provides that the sheriff be elected every 4 years, and the office comes under the judicial branch of government. The sheriff is therefore an officer established by the state constitution, separate from the legislative and executive branches of government. Sheriffs remain the primary law enforcement official in many Maryland communities. The state's 24 sheriffs and their more than 1,600 deputies are sworn officers, graduates of certified police academies, and have the same powers as other Maryland law enforcement officials to make arrests and detain lawbreakers. First question. When you indicated in the last sheriff's forum that you considered yourself a constitutional sheriff, what did you mean by that? And why did you feel the need to define yourself differently from a traditional sheriff? Mr. Wilson.
I get to go first again. I can go first. So, constitutional sheriff. Wow, that has come up down here when we started campaigning 2 years ago. That's a big question and a big concern for the citizens of Calvert County. They want a sheriff down here that is going to absolutely enforce the Constitution of the United States. And why this has come up, in 36 years of law enforcement, I was telling somebody this the other day, I have never, ever, ever seen the debate and the question about constitutionality. What is constitutional? What is not constitutional? And this came about because of COVID-19, and all these mandates that came out. You have the governor or the state of Maryland mandates, about masks. You have to wear a mask. You have mandates that say only 25 people or 50 people can gather at any one time. Then you have the federal government coming out and saying, oh wow, by the way, vaccinations, right? Everybody's got to get a vaccination. Oh, no, and guess what? If you don't get a vaccination, we're going to fire you and you're going to lose your job. All these mandates have come out as a result of COVID and Constitution. So the only thing I can say about that is I would enforce the Constitution down here. The sheriff absolutely is the authority in the county with the Constitution and laws of his deputy, and has the ability to make decisions based off of Constitution. Now, don't get me wrong, the sheriff is not the guy that mandates what is constitutional and what isn't. That's what the judicial system is for. That's what the courts do. They decide what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. But there's ways of fighting that as well. I would not mandate my deputies or people in the county to wear masks. I would not mandate that the deputies have to get vaccinated or they're going to lose their job. And I certainly wouldn't use the deputies to go into a school system to put parents on a terrorist list because they're not going to let their, they don't want their kids to wear a mask. And if they don't wear a mask, they're not going to go to school. So my bell rang. I can talk.
Like Mr. Wilson said, this has been a big question, a constitutional sheriff. So when I hear that, the way I see it is that as the sheriff of this county, I would make sure that everyone's rights, everyone's constitutional rights in this county would not be violated. It is not my job to go out and campaign to have these constitutional rights in the state offices and places like that, but it's my job to make sure that the constitutional rights aren't violated by my deputies, by our deputies that help to protect the citizens of this county. So when I think about a constitutional sheriff, that's what comes to mind for me, a sheriff that's going to make sure that his deputies don't violate anybody's constitutional rights when they are arresting them or when they're out doing their job or they're out in the community, that the deputies will not be violating a person's constitutional rights or attempting to violate their constitutional rights. That's not our job. We're here just to make sure that they don't break laws, enforce the laws, protect, serve, and while doing that, make sure that we don't violate any constitutional rights that they are afforded to by the Constitution. Thank you.
I have to tell you, they said it all. These two gentlemen before me, they said it all. As the sheriff, I take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and Maryland. And in that role, I will not let anybody's constitutional rights be trampled upon. I will do everything to the best of my ability within the law to protect those rights. The federal government, yes, there's been talk about federal government overreach, coming to the county to seize firearms and things of that nature. And if that were to happen here, then I would file for injunctive relief in violation of the 10th Amendment and try to abate that as much as I possibly could. So that's, I mean, as far as constitutionality and being the sheriff, that's where I'm at. Thank you.
As a constitutional sheriff, I will uphold the laws of our state and Constitution. I'm a gun owner. I'm a collector. And I sure won't let them come take mine. I'm not going to let them take yours. These mandates they put out from the governor, you know, this store stays open, this one stays closed. Who to tell you what store to stay open and what store to stay closed? And, you know, somebody came in here with COVID. They have to close the whole store down for 7 days, but a big store they won't close. I will not let them close your stores down. I will let them make them open, just like gas stations. Who are they to tell you where to get your gas from? I think the federal government's and the state a little bit is telling you, pushing you too much, where to go, what to do. Same with the shots. I will never, ever ask my guys at the sheriff's office to take a shot. You don't know what you're putting in your body. They don't know what they're putting in their body. I will never mandate that. I will never mandate them to put a mask on. That's their life. If they want to, that's fine. It's up to them. But I am definitely will not enforce the unconstitutional mandates that come down. Thank you.
We did all agree at being a constitutional sheriff, as you said at the last forum, and I think we all agree what we all up here believe in the Constitution. But the beautiful thing about the Constitution and being a constitutional sheriff, he gets his powers, he or she gets his powers through the Constitution, and he works for the people. The people elect him, and that's where he gets his power from. And he doesn't answer to the governor, he doesn't answer to commissioners, he doesn't answer to any politician, or like a police chief has to answer to the city council. So, but he answers to the people, the men and women that are sitting in this room. And as sheriff, being a constitutional sheriff, I will listen to everyone. I will have meetings like this. We can do it once a quarter, and I want to hear your concerns, I want to hear your needs, and I want to hear, most importantly, what we're doing right out there. And I think I think that's really important to hear your people, and the sheriff does work for the people, and that's what I'm going to be at. COVID, I think we started hearing the constitutional sheriff stuff when COVID came up because they started restricting where you could go, where you had to wear a mask at, and people were really irritated because it kind of felt like they were infringing on their rights, and I do believe that. I've taken many oaths to be sworn my oath to protect the Constitution, and I've laid my life down in 2 combat tours supporting the Constitution as well. And I've taken many classes here at one in Prince Frederick and one up the road, but and learning what a constitutional sheriff is. So I have some knowledge, and my assistant sheriff Dave Payne attended it as well. So I want to get the true meaning and the definition and being educated on the matter as well. If I'm elected sheriff, I will ensure that everybody's rights is not trampled on by the federal government, and I will not, as sheriff, enforce any unconstitutional law. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, part 2, and we'll start with Mr. Cox this time.
Go ahead.
Given the prescribed roles of sheriff under the Maryland Constitution concerning the enforcement of Maryland law, please clarify your position regarding a sheriff's authority when federal officials exercise their proper authorities in Calvert County.
So exercising the authority of the federal government? Is that what you said?
So, please clarify your position regarding a sheriff's authority when federal officials exercise their proper authorities in Calvert County.
As I said before on my closing statement on the last question, I will support the Constitution, and I will not let the federal government infringe on your rights, and I'll be that barrier, because just like I said, the sheriff does get his powers from the Constitution, and he works for the people, and I think the sheriff of this county can be that barrier between the federal government and rights that you feel like they're being violated. So as a constitutional sheriff, I do believe on that, and I will do my best ability if they come down here or if they try to take any property that's yours. We will do our best. And my plan on doing that is to have a unified front. We're all members of the Maryland Sheriff's Association, so all the sheriffs combined, they have meetings, we talk, we have knowledge of what's going on in their state, because if they're doing it here in Calvert County, they're probably doing it in multiple counties as well. So my plan is to have a unified front with these sheriffs, every sheriff in the state of Maryland, and come up with a plan and have legal counsel and to make the best educated decisions and informed decisions for the citizens of Calvert County.
Mr. Contra.
As your constitutional sheriff, if they're coming down here to do something unconstitutional, I'd stop them. Just like if they come down here and want to take your guns, we're going to stop them. Now, if they come down here and say, hey, this guy's a convicted felon, we need to take his guns, or if this guy has some mental health problems, we need to take his guns, I'll help him. I answer to you, the people of Calvert County. I will protect your constitutional rights. I will do everything in my power to stop them. Thank you.
Steve, you said if they come here to exercise their legal authority, if they come here with proper documentation to do something that they legally can do.
So let me read again. Given the prescribed roles of sheriffs under the Maryland Constitution concerning the enforcement of Maryland law, please clarify your position regarding a sheriff's authority when federal officials exercise their proper authorities in Calvert County.
So are we assuming proper means what they can do legally? I'm asking you to clarify that.
That is how I would construe the question.
So they do that quite often. Federal government comes to Calvert County oftentimes to serve arrest warrants, and we assist them. They have a legal warrant in hand for someone that has violated federal law, and they ask for our assistance, and we assist them with that. Now, if the federal government comes here to Calvert County, and again, like I said, they overreach their authority, they attempt to overreach their authority, then we file for injunctive relief in the federal court for the closest district in violation of the 10th Amendment, and we stay whatever action they're trying to complete until that gets worked out. It's really not as complex as it's being made out to be honest with you. But again, as everyone else here has clearly stated, I work for you, the citizens, and I will do everything I can to defend your rights in your county. And I will be accountable to you at any time, and any time you want to discuss anything like that, even now, after this event is over, I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Like everyone up here said, as your sheriff, I would be here to fight for you, fight for the citizens, the communities of Calvert County. If the federal government comes here and they have a right to be here, then you have to help them. But if they are overreaching, like Dave said, then you go through the proper ways with the 10th Amendment to make sure that they don't overreach their authorities. But I worked in the drug unit for almost 8 years when I was here, and the federal government came down sometimes and they had a warrant or they wanted to execute something. The DEA had a certain time. They only did warrants at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they were coming to our county, but they execute that warrant at 6 o'clock in the morning. We assisted them at 6 o'clock in the morning. So they have a legal right to be here. Then we will make sure, if they're overreaching, we'll make sure that they don't violate anybody's rights if they're starting to overreach by the 10th Amendment. But other than that, I'm here for the people to make sure that your constitutional rights aren't violated. And that's what I'll do.
Mr. Wilson.
Look, whether a law is constitutional or not rests with the courts and the judicial system. It's the judicial process that determines that a law, if they determine that a law is unconstitutional, neither me or the deputies in the sheriff's department would be inclined to enforce such laws. And we would prevent others from doing so, violating unconstitutional laws. You need to vote. You need to put people in Congress, and you need to put people in the Senate that that are going to do what you want them to do, that are going to make laws and enforce laws that you see that are fit. You need to put people up there that are conservative and that are not going to violate your constitutional rights, and are not going to mandate that you wear masks, and not going to mandate that you have to have vaccinations or you lose your job. So be a part of the system. Be a part of the change. You got to vote for these people. Put them in office. But no, none of us up here would enforce any unconstitutional law. But like I said, that's not up to a deputy or a sheriff to make that decision. That's up to the judiciary process, and there are ways to appeal decisions that are made. It happens all the time through state or through federal court systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you, gentlemen. It's 8:07. Let's take a break till 8:17. If you and ladies and gentlemen could be back in your seats at 8:17. Thank you.
Don't be looking. We can keep going.
I was ready to keep on trucking without my glasses anyways. This is mine. Yeah. Yes, that is yours.
Really?
You know how it feels. You didn't have to bring up the first thing.
I
You
know.
didn't
I
have
was
to
like,
bring the
wait, I
first
thought we
thing.
were going to rotate
You
questions.
didn't have to bring up the first
I mean, I'll go first. I don't mind that.
But attacking me. Thank you.
I like to hear you guys talk a little bit too, though. First. You went first. You went first that last time, the whole time. Remember, the whole every question.
I gotta send him a check when you get to the general. You all got your checks, you gotta get his yet.
so you might have to gong your
You're the man.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, gentlemen, what we're going to do now is have some questions from the audience. There are 4 of them. And we'll have one follow-up question after these 4. And then to conclude the night, 1-minute summation from each candidate. So, as Scott Deacon and I were kibitzing, who hasn't had the chance to go first? So, Dave McGowan, you're in the... Okay. All right. As a law enforcement service provider to the citizens of the county, how will voters know whether you're doing a good job without the data reports to make that determination? What data will you provide to the public?
Well, data can be provided and is provided currently through several avenues. Our website is actually pretty robust. You can find a lot of different information about the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. We brought a public information officer on board about 1.5 years ago, and so really our social media game has been stepped up considerably, and the website has, we post things constantly about the Sheriff's Office, what we do. We post crime reports, we post most wanted things. There's plenty of data out there, but I'm going to tell you right now, the best data out there and the best way for citizens to know what's going on for me is to call me. My number is 443-532-1816. I will answer the phone anytime. I would love to speak to you, whatever questions you have, whatever issues you might have. If you want to know something, come to the Sheriff's Office. Now, COVID kind of restricted access for a little while, but we're open again. Come to the Sheriff's Office. Do a ride-along with the deputy sheriff. I strongly encourage that. You know, data comes in a lot of different forms, but at the end of the day, like it's been stated up here before, I work for you. So whatever information you ever need, don't hesitate to ask, because I'll be glad to tell you. Thank you.
Okay, same question again from the audience. Mr. Johnson.
So like Dave said, I would use social media a little bit, get it out there on the social media. Also, town halls. I will be the first to tell you, I didn't used to like talking in front of people. It was a big thing for me. And then I started to be a school resource officer, and I had to do a lot of classes, and I had to get up and talk in front of the school a lot. So I've gotten better with it, and now I actually enjoy it. I would like to do more town halls. So the personal connection between people and people is starting to bridge a lot. We like to text message, we like to do social media, which is good because you get out to a mass amount of people. If we get our website up, you can post anything that's going on. The arrests, the things happening in the sheriff's office, you can post all of that on our website. I like that. We can post on our social media, on our Facebook websites, on our Twitter, and all other social websites we have, but I'd love to be out and talk to people now. So I would like to have more town halls. That way, if you have any questions, we have one every month or quarterly. That way you can come out, you can ask whatever questions you have, whatever concerns you have, and we can have that kind of conversation personally. When I'm the sheriff, I'll have the same cell number I've had for the last 20-some years, so anyone can call me whenever they want, just like now. My phone rings, and it's been constantly ringing since I've been up here, with parents calling and kids calling about practices and everything else. So my phone will be open to the public anytime to call and ask any questions that they have. But I would love to just get out and have town halls and allow people to come in and ask and talk and just interact with them about anything that's going on with the sheriff's office or any questions they have. That way they know it's an open communication with us.
Mr. Contra.
You know, data, public information officer. Also, one of my pillars is a sheriff advisory council. Consists of maybe 12, 13 people throughout the county, and we'll get with them to see what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, what we need to improve on. Also, I'm like some of the other ones. I'm better one-on-one. To me, in front of a crowd, as you could tell tonight, I'm a little nervous. But I'd sit down with you. You come to the office, whatever. My cell number's on my brochure. If you don't have that, it's 443-684-6173. And you can ask my wife if I pick the phone up. She'll tell you yes, and I get yelled a lot because we're on vacation or someplace else, and I answer, and she says, "Is that business?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "We're on vacation." I said, "I'll just be a minute." Thank you.
Mr. Cox.
Rating on my performance as sheriff, and I think I'm going to break this down into two parts of it. Not only to rate myself, but how our deputies are doing out there in the street. I think that's very important as well. To accomplish myself, throughout my whole career, I've been approachable. I've been involved in the community as far as coaching youth sports, Knights of Columbus, active member in my church, and also a volunteer fireman as well. So that's a lot of people that you're touching out there, and I think that you would get a lot of feedback on how you're doing out there. Secondly, I would like to send out a sheriff bulletin to keep our community informed of what I'm doing, what I've done, and what I plan to do, and kind of like do short and long-term goals. That's kind of the quirky me. So I like to set short, long-term goals where a succession plan of the sheriff's office, 5, 10, 15 years. Where do we want to be? What do we want to look like? And I think that's very important when you're talking about mentoring your leadership. And so for the deputies out there, July 1, we're supposed to have a police accountability board. Traditional ways, internal affairs administrators at the office have oversight on discipline at the sheriff's office, but now we have civilians doing that. So I want to continue to have a good working relationship with whoever this board is, because we don't even know what it looks like. But I want to have a knowledge of what they're seeing and what they're hearing out there, and kind of get their perspective of what we need to do, what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And I think that we can use that feedback to better police our community and actually have more professionalism out there on the street for our deputies. Secondly, I would like to get in our schools. So me as the sheriff, I want to develop a youth advisory council at our high school. So what are our school people seeing? So me as a sheriff, I will develop this council, and I'll hear all of our high school seniors and juniors and all the schools, and they give me feedback of what they're seeing in school, and help me to better our schools, making it safer, and having that relationship in school, inspiring young kids. Thank you.
Can you read the question again? Just the last.
Of course. As a law enforcement service provider to the citizens of the county, how will voters know whether you are doing a good job without the data reports to make that determination? What data will you provide to the public?
So data reports, this police reform bill that just passed and went into effect July 1st gives more transparency to the police and to the sheriff's offices, especially as it relates to data, Public Information Act requests, and internal administrative investigations as well. The sheriff's office puts out an annual report every year that has all kinds of information in it about the department and about data and what they're doing. But being open and approachable, and being involved in the community. So people feel that they can come talk to you. People feel that they can approach you and ask you these kind of questions. There's all kind of social media platforms out there. The sheriff's office has applications, software applications that you can download on your iPhone, and there's all kinds of information on there as well. You have Comcast Public Television is here recording this whole broadcast. So one of the things that I would do as well that I don't see happening a whole lot down here is press conferences. I would be out in front of these televisions and these cameras, letting people know what's going on, talking to folks about, particularly if it's a critical incident that occurred in the county or something that people need to know about, put the information out there to the folks through press conferences as well. So the feedback you get from your deputies and the feedback you get from the people are going to tell you the job that you're doing. That's a fact. So that's how I would do that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Contra, you're up next. This is question 2 from the audience. What experience have you had in recruiting and managing a diverse workforce, and how will you ensure the sheriff's office is representative of the county's demographics? By the way, did you answer the last question?
Yes.
Let me repeat this one again.
All right, thank
What
you.
experience have you had in recruiting and managing a diverse workforce, and how will you ensure the sheriff's office is representative of the county's demographics?
Well, the workforce, the only African American I supervised was Jay. Jay was the only one. Everybody was a white male. What would I do different? You know, you'd have to, the recruiting. We have a plan to get 2 people to do recruiting. And they're going to go out. If we have to go to Bowie, we have to go to Maryland University. We're going to send these guys out and try to get recruiting and recruit some of the minorities. But it's not saying it's going to give them a free pass. They're going to have to pass the written test. They're going to have to pass the agility. They're going to have to pass these tests high. We're not just going to give it to them. That's not going to happen. But we will do everything on our power to promote that. Myself, when I first got hired with Charles County Detention Center, their recruiting station came to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that's where I was interviewed. So sometimes you have to go out of the bubble to get good candidates. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
So in my career now, again, being a school resource officer, that has helped me to be able to diversify myself, dealing with all types of students throughout the day, all types of kids and families throughout my career. That's allowed me to be able to be more diverse, not having to just be on one. I know a lot of times they see a black male, I'm only going to be dealing with black African-American males. And don't get me wrong, being one of few in the school system, I do get calls about having to mentor African-American males. But I've also learned to be able to mentor everyone, not just African-American males. So that's helped me to be diverse across the board. I would plan on using a recruiting agency to help with some of the diversity. They would be able to go out and just recruit the best candidates, whether they be African-American, they be females, they be Spanish, just go across the board and recruit and hire the best candidates. I have a long-term goal that would fix that, and that would be a student mentoring program that we would start from elementary schools, not middle school, not high school, but elementary school. That's the school that you can get the kids and you can make a difference, because they're still influenceable in elementary school. You would start your mentoring that kid in elementary school and follow that student from elementary school to middle school to high school. You would build a relationship with that kid. He would then see the police in a different light, and that would help to recruit, because that's going to be a student that you've had since elementary school, middle school, high school. He graduates, he sees the police in a different light, and then hopefully we're able to bring him back and work for us. We have an Explorers program. I'd like to expand on the Explorers program, so then maybe it can be a cadet program like Charles County have, where we can start them working with us at the age of 18, and then once they're 21, they can just switch right over. So those are the things that we would do to try to help. That student mentoring program is big, because if students can see police at a different light early on, you build a relationship moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. McDowell.
Recruiting and managing. It is difficult. It's my turn. I just messed you up. I pulled.
Mr.
I'm
McDowell.
sorry. I heard Mike Wilson.
Who's up, Steve? Go ahead.
Dave McDowell.
Okay.
on first?
Thank you. I've recruited every day of my career. Since becoming a law enforcement officer, I've recruited anywhere I go, grocery stores, football games, baseball games, whatever. It doesn't matter. I recruit. If a young person comes up to me, if I'm in uniform, and I think they have a potential to be a police officer, I've done everything I can to do that. I've been a professor at the College of Southern Maryland for almost 17 years now, and Stevenson University. And I'm proud to say that a lot of my students are now deputy sheriffs or correctional deputies here in Calvert County and in other jurisdictions.
But like Jay said and some other people said, we have to cast a wide net, and with the current climate for law enforcement, and like I said, some of the challenging legislation that's out there, and like Ricky said, people aren't coming out for police jobs, and you know, it's really tough. It's really tough, and not just minorities, everybody. So, you know, for me, it's just keeping my nose to the grindstone and looking for good talent, people who truly want to follow the calling that it takes to be a law enforcement officer. Yes, visit different colleges, maybe even try, like Jay said, a private firm that markets, a true marketing scheme. I'm going to do anything, really, to try to get some qualified deputy sheriffs involved with the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Mr. Cox, and then
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson's up?
You're up first.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Next.
I started my career, like I said, in the United States Marine Corps with my opening statement. And the United States Marine Corps is one of the most diverse military branches of our, our nation. And saying that, I've served with many diverse people there that from all over the world, serving as Marines. So I have a good relationship to answer that first part of that question of working with diverse people in combat situations, and some of them couldn't even speak English when they got to boot camp. So I'm well versed in that, and also serving with foreign nationals in Iraq too that were teamed up with us as well. You know, I've worked with them in many cases and many missions over in Iraq. For my professional career here in the sheriff's office, I was in charge of the hiring process the last cycle, and I think we hired two. That diversity part of it, we have two in the academy now, and I think that's very important. So I think we need to really hit the road and grind, and I think it needs to start at our command level. Our command staff is all white males. We don't have one female supervisors. We don't have one diversity in our command staff at all, and I think that's a problem, because to come here and work, because I wanted to be like, I wanted to be a SWAT commander, so I wanted to do that. That was one of my career goals. So to be a commander, being diverse in our command, you have nobody to look up to or nobody who you want to be. So I think that's very important. But getting into our high schools and talking to the athletics and the sports, and talking to Coach Sneed out there and getting good. We have great people here. I've talked to every high school senior class in criminal justice, and we have some great kids here. And if we keep them here, we just got our pay up. We keep them here. That cadet program is very important too, where we can get them in here, start them at 18, or start them at the jail. They start their benefits, start their education, and I think that's very important. But we really need to work hard for a diverse agency, and I think we are at this current time.
Now, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Recruiting, look, is difficult. It's tough. It's hard right now. There's no doubt about it. Diversity in an agency most definitely should reflect diversity in the community. That's a fact. It's also a fact that right now is a huge challenge to law enforcement agencies to hire. Look, as chief of the Capitol Police Department, we work very diligently and hard on recruiting and managing recruitment and putting people in our recruiting that have the passion and the care to go out and do what it is that they need to do and hire people. Every federal, state, city, county, municipality, law enforcement agency in the whole Delmarva area is looking for and fighting for diversity in their department. And so these folks go to the departments to pay them. They go where the money is. It's that simple. So it's very, very, very difficult to put diversity in the community when you're one of the lowest paid departments in the surrounding areas. So pay parity comes again. It's a huge thing, particularly when you're trying to bring minorities into the department. But there's ways to do it. I mean, reach out to the churches, reach out to the colleges, reach out to the school systems. The Explorers program down here is a great way to do it. Get them interested in the county. talk about the benefits of being a Calvert County deputy down here, which is living in this safe community county, which is having, you know, a take-home vehicle that can keep you here in the county. There's something to be said about being a law enforcement officer or being a sheriff's deputy in Calvert County compared to going to DC to work or going up to Baltimore City to work. So you have to exploit those positive things and point those things out to get people to want to come down here and work, whether it's a minority or not. So.
Next question is also from the audience. Mr. Johnson, you're first in the lineup. What would you have done differently in the case of the deputy who hit and killed the woman to ensure evidence was properly collected and preserved?
So I would have made sure that we followed all the procedures that we're supposed to follow. It's no different than if there wasn't an officer involved. You follow the same procedure if it was a regular person that just committed the crime or committed that offense. You just follow everything the way it's supposed to be followed. We definitely missed some things, but we would just make sure that we follow the procedure. It's not that difficult. It was a police officer that did it. That's what changes it, but had it been a normal person, you would have just done it this one particular way, and that's the way it should have been done. Follow the procedures that we already have in place, and we wouldn't have this issue now.
Mr. Wilson.
Repeat the question again.
What would you have done differently in the case of the deputy who hit and killed the woman to ensure evidence was properly collected and preserved?
What I would have done differently in that case would be to absolutely follow policies and the procedures of the department without favoritism or without any bias, and enforce the laws equally and fairly. There was things that were done in that investigation that probably weren't done properly. They were done differently than if it would have been you or me who were involved in that accident. Without going, too much into specific details, it's a tragedy what happened, and justice didn't prevail in that accident at all. And if it would have been handled differently, it probably would have been. There was evidence that was suppressed in that case that probably shouldn't have been suppressed, and it wouldn't have been suppressed if it was handled like any other DWI case or any other manslaughter case in the county. So I definitely would have handled it differently just by following policy and procedure. If I was the sheriff at that night, I would have reached out to the state police as soon as that investigation and accident happened and had them come in and not only investigate the accident and the criminal allegations that came along, but the reconstruction acts. I would have had an outside department handle that whole thing from the very beginning, because when it's one of your own, there's too much favoritism and biased thought. I mean, get rid of all that. Just get rid of it and send it to somebody else that can investigate an accident like that. So that's how I would have done that differently, for sure.
Yes, sir. It's unfortunate what occurred that day, and it really hits home to me because I've.
Wow, thank you.
That wasn't me, was it?
That was not my mic.
Give me a second, y'all. Ricky, let's bring you up.
Okay.
You good?
Yes, sir.
You want to start again?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, speaking about the case, a lot of it's unfortunate, and throughout my career, I've been involved in a lot of cases that have really emotionally, has grinded on me throughout my career, and this being one because I know the mother of the victim in this case, and a lot said we can't really discuss because civil litigation right now, but if I'm in charge there as sheriff. the policy will be put in place that if anything, our officer does something like that, we will reach out to outside agencies and they will do the entire investigation. We'll pull out and whole perimeter and do what we need to do to assist. But through the whole investigation, that will be put in policy under my command as sheriff. That day I wasn't even here. I was in Florida, and I got the phone call, and like I said, it's very unfortunate. And at this current time, we're still investigating our officers that are involved in motor vehicle crashes and stuff like that are serious. And I just said, like Mr. Wilson said, I just think impartiality, you take that out of it. And when I was in investigations, when I came back from Florida, they assigned one of my detectives to that case to kind of gather all the information in it. And you're friends with that guy. You go to birthdays. You're out with his kids, and you put that guy in a bad position when you do that. And me as sheriff, I'm not going to put any of my men or women in that position to investigate their own people with that severity of a case. And I think it's moving forward, we're going to put policy in place so this will never occur again. And like I said, it's a tragedy, and my condolences go out to the family. And hopefully, moving forward, we can do things better. And that's moving forward as a sheriff's office. Thank you.
Mr. Contra.
Well, as you heard my opening statement, we shouldn't even be in that position. A phone call should have been made to the state police and said, hey, can you take care of this? We'll freeze the scene until you get here. We are biased. We shouldn't be handling that. We shouldn't be shutting cameras off. We shouldn't be taking them to the office, feeding them water. I could talk about it because I don't work here. But we shouldn't be doing that. We need to be honest with everybody. And like I say, if we would have had the state police handle it, we wouldn't be talking about it today because it would be done and over with. Now, a lot of people say it's the jury's fault. It's not the jury's fault. It's not the judge's fault. The evidence got suppressed because they obtained it illegally. They violated his Fourth Amendment. So, again, if anything in that nature, in that seriousness, I'd ask our friends, the state police, to take care of it. Thank you.
Mr. McDowell.
Steve, I'm going to exceed my allotted time, if that's okay. I'm sorry? I'm going to exceed my allotted time. So, unfortunately, one of the candidates put some things on Facebook that insinuated because the second in command, that's me, was on the scene, that's why things didn't happen the correct way that day. So to clarify, 31 minutes into that horrific event, I was notified at home to come to the scene of the crash, which I did. Sheriff Evans met me there. Sheriff Evans was on scene before I was, and he met me there. I did not see Mr. Migliaccio. He had already been removed from the scene. I'm told that he was removed from the scene because he was manic and combative. Sheriff directed me, well, let me back up. The sheriff and I had a conversation about who was to handle the incident. I recommended to him immediately that we needed to have the Maryland State Police investigate the incident. He agreed. He himself made contact with the trooper who was on scene to initiate that process. At that time, he gave me the directive to stay on scene until our crash reconstruction team, which he decided would handle the reconstruction, until our crash recon team arrived and got set up and got underway. That was my directive. I stayed there for that time, and once reconstruction got set up, I made a phone call to the office to find out what the status was, and I was told that the Maryland State Police had taken custody of Mr. Migliaccio. So at that point, I had no idea, and I'll get to the back end of this. I had no idea of what went on at the sheriff's office with respect to Migliaccio being able to walk freely around the office, given water before an administrative breath test and the other things. So when I found out about that the next day, I was mortified. That is not the conduct that I expect from our staff. It's not the conduct that I would have condoned from our staff. And it was just, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. You know, as the second in command, yes, I bear some responsibility for the actions of my troops, and I accept that. but I do not live in their hearts and minds. I'm not there when they make every decision. I rely on multiple layers of supervision between myself and those individuals to make the right decisions, like letting somebody know in the chain of command that this individual had a problem with alcohol and maybe some PTSD. That's one failure that occurred. And I'm not here to cast blame on anybody. Listen, Leah Clark and her family they were not, justice was not done. We failed them. We failed them on many, many levels. The courts failed them, the investigation failed them, the actions of some of the deputy sheriffs involved failed them, and we will never get her back. And I'm not up here asking you for sympathy by any means, but I needed to clear the air about this and set the record straight as to what I know that occurred that day. Had the sheriff not been there and I was in charge, yes, the state police would have handled the whole ball of wax. Mr. Migliaccio would have gone, if he was combative, he would have gone either to the sheriff's office and placed in a cell under observation, or he would have gone to the detention center if he was that out of control, until whatever authority was going to pursue that investigation and follow through with the charges got there to do it. He certainly would not have been given water prior to an administrative breath test being given. I feel the compassion. I know that he was a deputy sheriff and there was compassion for him. But as Jay said, that's not the right thing to do. When someone commits a crime, even if they're a law enforcement officer, they have to fall under due process like anybody else would be. It's behavior like that lends credence to the mistrust of law enforcement around the country. It's behavior just like that. And we don't have that here in Calvert County. We didn't until then. I wish that we could make this all be just a bad dream and go away, but we can't. The key is that we learn from it, we move forward, and we never, ever let something like this happen again. Thank you for extending my time.
We have one more question from the audience, and then we have one more question that we prepared beforehand. Last question from the audience. How would you develop a partnership with community residents to seek solutions to local problems? Mr. Contra, start.
Again, that goes back to my community policing. With the deputies in the neighborhoods, talking to people, finding out what the issues are and trying to solve them. It's very easy. We got to get back with the citizens. We got to bring that closeness back, because when you're close with them, they'll tell you what's going on. They'll tell you who's doing what in the neighborhood. Instead of just going on Route 4 writing tickets all the time, we need to spend time in there. That's an easy solution, community policing, and that's one thing that I push very hard. I've been pushing that since 2014, and it hasn't happened yet. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
The sheriff's office definitely, has a community policing that they do. They have CAT teams and they have other ways to get out into the community. But one way of getting out there for me and talking to the community, there's 7 different communities down here in Calvert County, would be to create a citizens advisory board for each of these communities, because what happens in Chesapeake Beach or Dunkirk is not what happens in Solomons or St. Leonard, and there's different issues that need to be brought up and talked about. So reaching out and putting people on these different citizens advisory boards that could speak for what's going on in their communities and the issues that they're having in their communities, and meeting with these folks quarterly, monthly, whatever you think you would want to meet them, would be a good way of finding out what's going on in the community. What are your needs? What do you want? What's happening? What do you need from the sheriff's office? Unless you go out and talk to these people, you're just not going to know. You're going to be making your own opinions because somebody said so. So reaching out in the community comes back to having the ability to communicate with folks, having the ability to talk to people and to listen to what it is they say. And once you hear what it is that they say, then having the ability to fix it and to find solutions to whatever the issues are. So definitely reaching out to the community with advisory boards would be one way I would handle that. Getting these deputies out of the cars is another way to do it. I heard it here before, staying on Route 4 is not the key. It is an important key, but you have to get into the communities. You have to get into the neighborhoods. People, the citizens of the county want to see those cruisers in the neighborhoods. They want to see those sheriff's office cars going by, on a Saturday morning when they're out cutting the grass and they're walking. They want people to get out of the cars and have conversation with them and talk to them and form and build bonds between the sheriff's office and the community. That's how you come back and build trust and legitimacy within the community. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Like Mike and a couple of others have said, we need to get out of our vehicles, get back in the patrols, get back in the neighborhoods, do more neighborhood patrols. Like someone on this panel that supervised me when I was in the child support section, he taught me when I was serving child support warrants to get out, walk the neighborhoods. And he probably doesn't even remember this, but he told me, grandmothers always tell you what you need to know. So I would get out and walk these neighborhoods, and lo and behold, like Craig said, I would get a grandmother tell me exactly where the grandson was and where I could go find him to pick him up for the child support warrant. So we definitely need to get out of our vehicles, get back in the neighborhoods, walk up and down the streets, introduce ourselves, give out your cards so they know who you are. Like Mr. Wilson said, I would definitely have citizen advisory committees. I think that would be good. Citizens can come out to tell you what they need, what they want, what they don't like. I am big with youth stuff, so I would love to see the Sheriff's Department. It would take a lot of us because we work shift work, but I would love to see the Sheriff's Department actually sponsor and coach youth teams. Like pick a sport, football, basketball, whatever it may be, have several deputies because of the shift work, it takes several, and we actually coach a youth team. Have block parties in different neighborhoods because the communities need to see us in more than just enforcing laws. It would be nice for them to see the human side of us as well, because that helps with building a relationship. It helps with the trust. So block parties are big. It's nice to get us out, just to have fun, see us not in our uniforms. We used to have softball tournaments that were great. It was a good way to have the community come out, play softball against us, see us as normal people and not just in that uniform. And it's a way of building relationships and going forward. So those are some of the things I would do. That's really easy for me because it's what I love to do, but just to get back out in the community, communicate, talk, and just build those relationships again.
So part of my, one of my campaign platforms items is back into the communities. And so patrol works 12-hour shifts. So every other weekend, they work a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 36 hours of time. So one of the community policing models I will put out is something I'm going to call 3 for 3. During that 36 hours, deputies are going to have to get out of their cars, either in a shopping center or in a neighborhood, and engage the community. They have business cards that we pay for, and they're going to hand the citizens, they're going to see somebody walking their dog or whatever the case may be, and they're going to say, "Hi, I'm Deputy McGowan, I work this area, and here's my card. Short of a 911 emergency, please give me a call if you need anything. I work this beat." Or, if they go up to Harris Teeter and they're in the shopping center and they're walking through, the same principle applies, making contact with citizens so they can put a face to a name. That goes a long way. And some citizens are reluctant to call the police, but if they know Deputy McDowell, then they're not going to maybe hesitate to do that. I too will have a council. It'll be called the Sheriff's Council. It'll be 10 members from the community, a cross-section of different representations from throughout the community. And we'll meet quarterly or ad hoc if needed. And we'll discuss current events and topics on how we can best serve our community from people in the community. One of the first things I will do is each year I will present my proposed budget to my Sheriff's Council so they can have input on how I'm spending your tax dollars. And when I go before the commissioners, at least I'll have some buy-in from some segments of the community. I also believe in coaching. I also want to get in our senior sitters, and I want to have our senior citizens come in and volunteer at the sheriff's office to get to know us. I have more to say, but I'm out of time. Thank you.
Hey Jay, you said Grandma gave you good advice, right? Yeah, grandmas never get bad advice. Throughout my whole career, if you ask anybody that's worked with me, I've always been in the schools, coaching, youth minister at my church and stuff like that, and I've always been involved in our community, and I think it's very important for our deputies to do it. But the current way we do business at the sheriff's office now is that we're judged and we're evaluated on a stat sheet and in numbers. And I think that a deputy riding through the neighborhood or talking to somebody doesn't get the point to get that evaluation or get that point to get that next promotion. So driving through the neighborhood is not on there. So it kind of forces their hand not to do this type of things. And if we take that out of the hands, that stat sheet and the numbers game, I want deputies to be deputies. And we have our supervisors supervise people. And I think that's very important about their performance. I brought it up the last four. Pete Ark worked for me for a long time. He was a community officer. They knew his name in Dunkirk. They called him before 911, but he didn't have the numbers, so they make him park his car. And I think he did police work. And me as the sheriff, I want well-rounded squads. I want well-rounded people at the sheriff's office. Some people like to do community policing. Some people like to write tickets. So I was explore bringing back the text notification system as well, and having people more informed, because I think the app, a lot of folks don't know how to use that, and it costs a lot of money. And that app right there would keep everybody informed. I want to bring back advisories too as well, advisories boards for our community, and like I said, our youth too, because I want to hear from our youth and what they're seeing in schools and what they're seeing growing up, and kind of be inspiring them as an influential leader as sheriff. So I want to speak to them. Vonzel Ward was my sheriff. He came in our class once a week and talked to us, and he's the reason why I wear the uniform today, and he's the reason why I want to be the sheriff. And community policing will be policing under my command. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. This is the last question of the evening, and then we'll have a 1 minute round for each of you to sum up your positions. So, last question. Topic is active shooter response in schools. So, given recent mass shootings in Calvert Public Schools, what measures are currently in place to mitigate the possibility, and what would you do to improve those measures? Is Calvert County Sheriff's Office prepared, trained, and equipped to respond?
We're prepared, trained, and equipped to respond, but you got to be there. The average active shooter event takes 5 to 6 minutes max. We have to be there. We are short-staffed in the schools, and it's no secret. We do our best with what we have, Jay and his crew, but there is one level of our schools that don't have full-time SROs. We do have to fix that. We do. There are some short-term Band-Aids that we could apply, but that's all they are. It's Band-Aids. We need to really, truly fix the problem. We need to pony up the money and hire the deputies to be in the schools. It's a little bit over $2 million to do that, but we need to find a way to do it. One possible thing I'm considering right now, trying to look at, and of course this would all be up to the current sheriff, is that we do have the opportunity to possibly use speed camera funding to hire contract deputies to be there. You can't hire a full-time merit employee deputy to be there, because that's a continuing cost. That's pension and benefits, and if the money goes away, then that person, the county would have to pick that person up, and I don't think they'd be inclined to do that. But if we can fill the gap with contract deputies in the interim, I believe we could maybe sustain that with speed camera funding. You know, you always want to be prepared, and we do try to do our best to do that. We do need to have active shooter drills. We need to have them, you know, when in the summertime when we get into the schools, we need to have a better understanding of the infrastructure of all the schools. We have to have the capability to monitor the cameras that are with it. We have the capability. The Calvert Control Center has the ability to watch live cameras in the schools, but the Board of Education is resistant to it, and we're not sure why. And we need them to be true partners in this. We need them to be true partners. We need to work with the superintendent. There's a new superintendent coming in. We need to work with the superintendent and the Board of Ed to persuade them of the severity of the situation. And that's, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's my plan for that. Thank you all.
Mr. Contra? You know what the problem is? We keep talking about it and not doing it. We need to do it. In 2014, I'm the one that had the idea about the speed cameras. Now, don't get mad at me. We were going to use that money to support deputies in schools. Well, they went up, and the money goes into a fund now, you know, which it shouldn't. It should be for the children. That's what I pushed for back in 2014. 2018, I pushed for the same thing. I think we should have a SRO in every school and be prepared. It might cost a little bit. You know, when there's no shooting or anything, like I said before, everything goes away. But soon as something comes up, oh, why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? We keep talking about it. We need to do it, and it can be done. We need to get in the schools. We need to have them in there. He's going to be the first line of defense. Within the first couple minutes, he's either going to shoot them or he's going to get shot, to be honest with you, either way. What we are dealing with and what we were informed, we go right to the shooter and eliminate them. No questions asked. If you're by yourself, you go. If you got two of you, you go. You go until you stop the threat. And that's what we got to keep pushing. We got to quit talking about it and do it. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
School resource officers, active shooters, kids dying in schools is the topic of conversation. It has been for the last several years. I think Calvert County Sheriff's Office is hugely equipped to handle an active shooter incident in a school or anywhere else in the county. You know, they have a special operations team down here. They have the Bearcat down here that they can take in. They have you know, the proper weapons to address issues like that, AR-15s and rifles. So yeah, I think they're equipped to handle an active shooter. And there's no doubt in my mind that anybody down there in that sheriff's department would not hesitate to be the first one inside of a school if there was an active shooter incident in a school system. These men and women down here in this department are brave and do a wonderful job. Me and my wife were up last night, or a couple nights ago, listening to the sheriff's department deal with a homicide case up here and chasing that guy around with helicopters and canines and dogs and everything else that they had to do that, and did a really wonderful job. Two things. Yes, deputies in schools. None of us are going to say, we don't have enough, or we have enough deputies in school. We need to put a deputy or an SRO in every school in the county. But that costs money. That's a communication thing with the commissioner's office. Maybe you could reorganize the department down there and see where people are really at, and do talk about maybe a restructure. You know, maybe there's some people we could pull from somewhere else to actually put into these places. Talk to the Board of Education about what the expectations are of the Sheriff's Department and what you need to do. Training is hugely important. Exercises is another big thing. But in the short term, lock down the schools. It's not going to cost them several $1 million. Lock them down. Use the video management systems and the closed circuit televisions and the security systems that are out there that most of the schools have. I have not been able to walk into a school in Calvert County without standing on a little red X on front of the door and beeping the thing and being allowed into the school. That's 2 minutes.
Mr. Cox.
I think it starts with, are we equipped? We are. We train hard for it, the team-wise and patrol. And I think it starts with building good relationships with our school and our school board itself. And I think it's kind of tarnished over the years. I don't know where it fell through the cracks, but as a candidate run for sheriff, a lot of people talk about they care about active shooter, they care about the schools, but I became one. I became an active shooter instructor. And we've taught hundreds of school teachers there for years, and then we just stopped doing it. Teachers have told me they do a PowerPoint now instead of actually doing a drill. And I said at the last forum, I drove by my wife's school. She's a school teacher, so I kind of take this at heart. And I have 2 kids in the public school system. And they were doing fire drills. I know we have to do them, but last time a kid was killed in a fire in a school was 1958. I mean, we have to do these drills, and we have to do them frequently, and I think it's very important. Not with kids there, but we have to train our staff and our substitutes. A lot of the substitutes don't get the, I know every school is short-staffed, because I hear my wife, she has to cover this class, have to cover this class, so we have to train the substitutes as well. And getting into our schools, and we have to train for active shooter, and I think it's very important that we do that, and we have to stress on, with a new administrator coming in, we have to build that bond from day one. Active shooter, we used to get on scene, we had a T or a diamond formation, but now we teach solo or the Raider program. So first officer on scene goes straight to threat and takes it out. That's what they're trained to do, and I have confidence that they'll be able to do that. But we have the equipment. Getting back into our schools, we have to get those videos, because during a live situation that occurs, the school board will not allow us to have the video surveillance cameras, and that's unacceptable. We need those to tactically get to the situation to where that person is, and for mission success, we need those types of cameras during a stressful situation. I was part of the Great Mills incident that occurred. There's a lot of chaos, parents there running around, and it's chaos, and we need to train for that, not only our deputies, but our teachers and our staff. Thank you.
Gentlemen, that concludes the.
Well, I have to answer it.
Oh.
I mean, that's.
You got, yeah, you're gonna answer. We'll answer.
So this is really close and dear to my heart. Again, I'm a school resource officer, so I take this to heart. I've been doing this for 14 years, and the best weapon against a school shooter is the school resource officer. It's not the only defense, but it's the best defense. And I take it to heart. My wife is here. She will tell you I don't call out sick. If I'm sick, I will literally park my truck in the front and stay outside if I can't go inside. I take it to heart to be at my school every day. I was the second SRO in this county. Corporal Libby was the first, and I was the second. We've done a lot of things to make this unit better. All the patrol have key cards now where they can immediately access any school, so they don't have to wait or to go get an emergency key. They can swipe. They have a key card to get right into any school. Ricky is right about the PowerPoint. I actually give that PowerPoint at my school. It's all the school allows them to do now, but I do go through every scenario that I can possibly go through with the teachers, so they know exactly what they can and can't do. Again, I do want SROs in every school. We have one in every middle school, every high school. I would love to have one in every elementary school. That needs to happen. That's not a want, it needs to happen. The SRO program is the best weapon against, not just for the defense of a school shooter comes in, but the SRO has the relationship. He knows that school. I have Mr. Wilson's grandson at my school, and I see him every day. We have fun with each other. I have relationships with them. That SRO knows his school if he's doing his job. He's able to communicate. He's able to point out who might be stressful, who might need that extra hand to look at, or might need the help. So he's the best weapon against this, not just if it becomes an active shooter, but even to prevent one, because if they're doing their job well, they have a great pulse of that school. I can't say I know everything, but I ear hustle a lot at that school. I know a lot. I'm there every day, and I know what's going on before it happens, so that's what I would do.
So is Mr. Wilson's grandson 8 feet tall too?
Not yet, but he's getting there. The youngest one is, though. He's taller.
He is taller. Yeah.
So
He'll be 300 pounds.
that concludes the questions prepared in advance and the questions from the audience. So now, gentlemen, 1 minute closing statement from each candidate. We'll proceed in alphabetical order. Mr. Cox.
Good, thank you. I set a dream to be the sheriff back 22 years ago, and to be a dream, you have to set goals for yourself, because dreams are just dreams without goals. My first goal was to be a United States Marine. I accomplished that, and I've learned a lot through combat experience, and which I'll bring to you every day as your sheriff. Secondly was to get my degree. I got that because I think education is very important, and I achieved that goal. My third goal was to have a command staff level at the sheriff's office. I accomplished that and served in every bureau of that agency, and I bring a lot of knowledge, working knowledge of every position there at that sheriff's office, sworn and civilian. So like I said in the beginning, I can hit the ground running, and we can start improving our community, and I'm asking for your vote to improve our community from day one, July 19th, 2022. Thank you.
Johnson.
So again, being sheriff wasn't my dream. Being a deputy was my dream. But over time, I've had this calling to be a sheriff now. I am focused to getting back in our neighborhoods to ensure that we keep our communities, and the greatest resource we have is our children, safe. I am driven to show this community the passion and compassion that I have for this community. I want to make the sheriff's office a beacon for our community again. I want to make the sheriff's office that one place that everyone feels safe when they see us. Everyone feels safe when they see us ride through. When they just look at us, they feel safe. Like we are the beacon of this community. I want to show my commitment to keeping our sheriff's department trained, diverse, and bolster our recruiting so that we can have the sheriff's office look and mirror what our communities look like. I ask that you go out, you vote, you help to bring one of us, I would prefer it be me, to the sheriff's office to fulfill that goal.
Mr. Contra.
I'm running on 5 pillars, and my 5 pillars, first one are drugs, second one's community policing, third one is schools, fourth one is the Sheriff Advisory Council, fifth one is businesses. I've been preaching this since 2014. I'm preaching integrity, honesty, transparent, ethics, and trust is the big thing that I will bring back. Under my leadership, you will see a change. I will lead by example and install a new vision that reflects a basic commitment of services to the Calvert County citizens. I will bring new energy and dedication to the Sheriff's Office and make Calvert County a better place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Mr. McDowell.
Thank you for coming out, everyone. If you happen to run into a Calvert County Deputy Sheriff in your travels, please introduce yourself to them, or if you already know them, say hello. They are the best, finest men and women out there doing this job. As we move forward, I know we are not perfect as an agency. We do a lot of things well, but we always need to improve. When I'm elected, I will do things a little bit differently than the way they're done now, with your input and with your feedback. You know, we are a community. The police are the community, and the community are the police. It is my goal to make sure that every citizen in this county stays safe, calls this place home, and always gets that feeling when they come back down Route 4 and they go into the 260 or come across the 231 or TJ Bridge, that little voice in your head that says, I'm home now, I'm safe. Thank you very much.
Mr. Woods.
I'm running for sheriff down here because I think I'm the best candidate for this job. I think I have the experience. I've been a police officer for 36 years. I've been a police chief for 12 years. Look, it's easy to talk about change, but it's easier said than done. I've actually made the changes that I talk about in my department. I've made changes for the department and made it better. One thing about being a good leader is if you can leave a department and it is better off than when you got there, then you have been an effective leader and made positive changes in the department. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to make sure that the laws down here are enforced equally. I'm not from inside of this department. I'm from outside of this department, but I'm a member of this community. And what I'm saying is, I'll be able to go down there and create the change that you're looking for. I'll make effective changes in that police department and in the leadership of the department to make it a better place and serve the community. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Dakin, Post Commander. Folks, thank you for coming out this evening. We appreciate it. Thank you again for the county. They record this and put it out live on YouTube. It gives people a chance to hear some very meaty questions and some true heartfelt answers. And thank you, gentlemen. I will tell you what, you guys are just great, all of you. I appreciate the collegial attitude.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you all down here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.